Hello everyone, my name is Marsh, and this is my review of The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. Let's jump into it. So this is going to be both a spoiler-free slash spoiler-filled review. I'm going to have a spoiler-free section first. I'll give you a clear spoiler warning when we get to the spoiler-filled section. Other than that though, if you end up enjoying this review, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and that would be greatly appreciated, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, Secret Project number 4, The Sunlit Man. This is the spoiler-free section of the review. I'm going to go over things like the setting, plot, characters, writing, prose, all those things, inspirations, what you might like, what you might not like, and where I would rank it in the 4 Secret Projects so far. So to start out, we follow a character named Nomad, and that's about as much as I'll tell you. Nomad has a partner, and those two have probably the best relationship out of all the characters, in my opinion, Nomad and the partner. It's one of the best parts, I would say, about the novel is the relationship Nomad has with this partner. Nomad has been randomly teleported to this mysterious planet, and on this planet, the sun burns so brightly that it will kill you if you're caught in the sun. That's basically the premise for the planet, and it's basically about Nomad's adventure on said planet. I'm not going to go into the story synopsis any further on that, but since we're already talking about setting, the setting in this one is great, as it is with almost all Sanderson novels. He always makes everything unique, and there's always some weird catch to it. Like I said, this one has like a sun that burns so brightly it will kill you if you're left in the sun. So it makes it very interesting when you're reading it, and you have to consider that. And he forms the whole planet around that idea of the sun being so bright it can kill everyone. I don't really consider that a spoiler. It's just explaining the setting, and it's not going to ruin your enjoyment of the story. Now, in terms of the plot itself, I would say it's actually a pretty good plot. It's sort of like, reminds me of like an action movie, to be honest. And one of the inspirations Sanderson said was cowboys, westerns, Mad Max, things like that. You definitely see it with those settings. I would say the western part more for me than the Mad Max per se, but you definitely get that type of inspiration. It's very much a story about the main character and what's going on around them, rather than a story about the main character getting to know someone, doing this. Obviously, he gets to know people and things of that sort, but it's more centered around the development of that main character. The plot is satisfying too. I would say that it has actually one of the better endings, in my opinion, of all the secret novels so far. In terms of like the other novels, Secret Project number 3, I didn't agree with the ending, but I liked the book overall. Secret Project number 2, I didn't like the book that much. I felt the ending was kind of rushed. And then Secret Project number 1, I think might be my favorite of them so far, but this one's contending. In terms of plot, it's fun. You'll enjoy it if you like anything in the Cosmere, and that's another thing to be considered as well. The Cosmere is heavy in this book. If you haven't read the Cosmere, it'd be interesting to see how you would enjoy the book, but it is a heavy implement, and it's probably the most that he's had his hand put into that universe and just thrown into the book right away. So it's definitely not a novel to recommend if you haven't read any of the other Cosmere. Personally, I've read Mistborn, Warbreaker, the first 3 novels of the Stormlight Archive. I have not read Rhythm of War, and I've read some of the novellas and then the secret projects. I was able to keep up with it. I did feel as though there may be some spoilers for Rhythm of War. I haven't read it yet, but there may have been some things that might have like carried over, or that events that happened. So I will say that if you haven't caught up fully on Stormlight, you might want to wait until you do before reading this, but it's nothing major, I would say, and you're still going to fully enjoy it if you fully enjoy the Cosmere as itself. But if you haven't read any Cosmere, I don't know, to be honest, if you'll like it or if you'll understand it. I think you can, but it's not going to be as interesting, or it's not going to hit you as much. In terms of other things with the plot, I felt like this one, there wasn't as much like up and down in terms of like sadness, emotions. I felt it's very action, as it is inspired by westerns. There's not a very large emotional field, I would say. There's some moments that get pretty dark, There's some moments that are seen as touching for that, but I never really got that emotional attachment, but I still enjoyed it. The other thing to be aware of, magic systems. With any Brandon Sanderson novel, magic systems are always a major thing to look at and something that people always highlight. This one has a pretty interesting one, I would say. I'm not going to go into detail what it is, but it does a lot of mixing in the Cosmere to bring in and explain the magic system that's on this specific planet. And it makes sense, and you get through it and you understand this magic system by the end of the novel. I wouldn't say it's the best magic system per se, but it's definitely still good. And like I'd mentioned prior, it's very heavy Cosmere inspired. So the more you know of Cosmere, the more you'll enjoy the magic system, versus if you don't know anything of the Cosmere, it may just be too much to comprehend, perhaps, I would say. Last thing I wanted to talk about was prose. With the other secret novels, the Sanderson took a very risky choice on his prose, and he made it more whimsical. He was putting more personality into it, and that was something he was experimenting with, which he admits in the afterword of the story in those novels. This one is more similar to your Brandon Sanderson prose that you'll get in other Brandon Sanderson novels. It's a little more dry, not as whimsical or purple and colorful. It's more to the point, like other novels from Brandon Sanderson. This one feels more like a Sanderson novel versus the other ones. They feel a little more unique, I would say. Overall, though, Secret Project 4, I really enjoyed it. Really, the only Secret Project I haven't enjoyed is 2. If I were to rank it, prior to this video, I said I didn't know where I would rank 3 and 1. They were kind of on the same level. 4, I feel like now that I've had time to sit on it more, 4 is balancing there with 1, but I feel like 1 is still my favorite, then 4, then 3, and then 2. But 1, 3, and 4 are like here. 2 did not really do anything for me, so it's like down there. But they're all great, I would say. Now, I'm going to give you guys a warning, full spoiler warning right here. Give you some time to click off. In this spoiler section, I'm just going to talk about some of the things I enjoyed. We'll go over some of the same stuff, but we'll go into what I liked about certain aspects. And if you haven't clicked off by now, then it's your fault for staying here. But spoiler section now. Cosmere spoilers. Please, I haven't read Rhythm of War yet. I haven't read Elantris, and so do not spoil things for me that I don't know. Haven't read Mistborn Era 2, only Mistborn Era 1. I'm going to read them eventually, so don't spoil them for me, please. And also, just as a preface, I'm not a Cosmere expert, so I'm probably going to say something wrong as well in regards to how the magic systems work. So just bear with me. Feel free to correct me if you want in the comments down below, but I'm letting you know right now I'm not an expert. First and foremost, we're following a familiar face here. Nomad is our man Sigil. Probably said that wrong. Never listened to the audiobook. But Sigil from Stormlight Archive. Like I mentioned before, I feel like this may have certain spoilers for Rhythm of War, which don't tell me if it is or not. But there was everything that was mentioned with the Dawn Shard. I don't know if that's happened yet in Stormlight Archive. I'm planning to save Rhythm of War for before Stormlight 5 comes out, so I could just read it back to back. So I'm not going to get to it for a while. I know there is a Dawn Shard novella. I will read that, though, and that might answer my questions. But I feel like it may spoiler for Rhythm of War. So that might be something to take note, is if you have someone that's in the middle of the Cosmere, or at least in the middle of Stormlight, not to read this yet, per se. Other than that, though, I loved going with Sigil, and there's a point where he is, like, trying to remember what it's like to be in, like, Bridge 4, and he starts spear fighting at the end. Or even prior to that, like when he goes into one of the storms and Wit talks to him, he thinks it's Cal at first because Wit's wearing like a Bridge 4 uniform, I guess. And that was just like when he's like, Cal? I'm like, oh. And the whole relationship that he has with Auxiliary is probably the best relationship in the novel. I really love the duo between the two, how they handle each other and how that their bond was, especially in the end when Auxiliary was like, I'm going to use my last life essence basically as a spren to let you fly again and give you your armor. This way you can take care of the people you love, because that's what you would do if you're a man of honor and you took your oaths for honor, because it sounds like Auxiliary is an honor spren. I don't know. I haven't read Rhythm of War if it's in there or Dawn Shard, but it was still touching though when Auxiliary finally went, and then he's even still talking to him like he's still there to see if he's like there magically, and it's sad. It kind of reminds me of an anime called Parasite, the Maxim, where there's like a little hand that like talks. He has like an alien hand and it talks to him, and at the end the hand goes into hibernation, and he tries to talk to him sometimes, and it's gone. So it kind of reminded me of that, but it was sad. I missed Auxiliary. In terms of the other characters, like I mentioned, we build a connection with the other characters like Rebecca and Elegy, and then the three like old crones, but we never really like get a strong connection with them, which I was fine with because I really liked the partner duo from Auxiliary and Nomad. That was enough for me, and I actually didn't want them to go further because all three other books had a romance factor to it. I'm not opposed to romance, but it almost seemed like, oh, are we going to shove a romance in here again with Rebecca and Nomad? And there was like a moment, but he's like, no, I can't do that. And they pushed it off. And so that was good. And it was good to see that he didn't do that. And he just stuck with the Western genre. Some people might have wanted that though. In terms of the world itself, though, it's a pretty interesting world that we saw with the sun destroying everything. One of the dark moments was when we figured out about the Sun Hearts, and they're saying, oh, the Sun Hearts are our family and the people of this universe sacrificing themselves to give us energy so we can keep living and going on and running in this constant cycle. And then even a moment where Becky's like, yeah, the Sun Heart in my hover bike is my mom when she sacrificed herself. And it's just like, dang, that's dark, Brandon. Like, if you think about it, when they reach it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic thing like you see in those societies where they reach a certain age and they kill the elderly. It's kind of like that. It's like, yo, you're like 45 now, lady, so like you want to stand in the sun for us and kind of like help us out. I don't know, but it was cool to see how that worked and how he figured out how to cleanse. I forgot what it's called. It's like torment. That's what it is. How to cleanse the torment off of himself and how to cleanse it off of Elegy. What he was using Elegy as an experiment to help himself. Like I said, I haven't read Rhythm of War, Dawn Shard yet, so I don't know if torment is something that occurs in that. So I'm interested to learn more about what the torment is and what Dawn Shard is and how Wit tricked him or used him to hold the Dawn Shard, where that lines up in the timeline. I'll find out by the end of next year when Stormlight 5 comes out. Please don't tell me yet, but that's what I'm thinking so far as someone who hasn't finished Stormlight yet. I'm interested to find out. In terms of the villain, I would say the villain is okay. He's kind of basic. Not like one of the best villains. He's not offensive. He's just okay for me. The Cinder King. Like we never got like a tragic backstory for him or anything like that. And we don't always need that. Sometimes you just need bad to be bad. So it's refreshing when you have that sometimes. And he's serviceable. He did his job. Overall, though, like I said before, I mean, there's other details I can jump into, like, oh, here's this Easter egg from this planet. We have the Scandrians, which is that from Elantris or Mistborn? Feel free to tell me. I don't think it's from Mistborn. I'm blanking. I know they're called something, but I believe it's some. I don't know. I'm gonna get it wrong. So just tell me where the Scandrians are from or what book. But it's all very interesting. One thing that I learned was they were talking about perpendicularity. I'm saying that wrong. In Shadesmar. So is that how Shadesmar is like the way that people are hopping worlds? Because I know we had like the girl from, this is an Oathbringer spoiler, but the girl from Warbreaker, I believe it's Ciri, was in Shadesmar and she got in Stormlight and she was in Shadesmar with everyone, but she didn't mention anything, but she knew about like the gates and stuff and how things work. So I'm wondering if world hoppers use that and Spren's like something that goes around the whole thing. That's something I'll have to look into and learn more about, and I'll probably get more answers when I read more of the Cosmere. But this book being so heavily handed Cosmere, it makes me think that if someone wasn't to read Cosmere, I don't know if they would actually like the book or understand it. I think they would enjoy it, but I don't know if they would understand it. But as someone who is into the Cosmere, at least a little bit, not like a super crazy fan yet, it has me wanting more. I want to dive into more of the stuff, learn more, and like just have it all click in my head, reread stuff and be like, oh, that was there from the beginning. I should have known that. I should have known this. It's all just so fascinating, and I love the universe that's being created. Overall, though, like I mentioned before, Secret Project number 4 ranks probably number 2 for me behind Tress, and then Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and then Frugal Wizard's Guide would be the 4th one. But I really enjoyed it. It was a good addition, and I can't wait to continue reading more of the Cosmere. It really kind of got that Cosmere itch going for me again. Other than that, though, feel free to let me know if you liked it or not, and try to keep it like somewhat spoiler free for people who haven't read the book yet, but like a spoiler tag or something. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Please don't spoil future books or like Rhythm of War, because I haven't read it yet. But thank you for watching, though. I appreciate your time. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.